Now we are going to try something that I have never tried before, and that is to run around Asia in 30 minutes with 6 speakers, of whom 4 are digital, 4 are virtual, 2 are going to join me here. So Bernie's going to come back after his nectar quick swig of coffee, and we're going to have Priya joining us as well from Gig Life Pro. Hey Priya, please join us. Welcome to the stage, and Bernie's going to come back.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have, there they are, look, we have 4 people in the World Wide Web joining us live.
Oh, wow.
From India, China, Australia, and Japan. Okay, please be seated. So we genuinely haven't rehearsed this at all. So what happens next is completely up to us. But what we wanted to do as a gateway to Asia, we wanted to just run around the region to see what's going on in Asia. Now, normally we'd all be in the same room. Normally we'd start the whole day with this session just to give a kind of a really nice snapshot. But because of time zones, because of the virtual speakers coming in from the US, we're starting at kind of at lunchtime. So we have with us, Devraj is in India, we have Lesley in China, we have Dom in Australia, we have Taka in Japan, we have Priya here. Now, Priya is very unfair on Priya, I must say, because she's representing the whole of Southeast Asia, and Bernie stay on stage to represent Korea. So that the questions that we've really asked to people are, in a very snapshot way, what's going on in your market? What's happening with digital, with live? What genres are hot? What are your challenges? And then finally, we're going to say what's exciting as a group. But we're going to go around the region. So we're going to start as far left as we can with Devraj. Devraj, please introduce yourself. What's going on in India?
Hi. Firstly, Jas, I hate it that Bernie and Priya are sitting there. I really do. I wanna box Bernie. It's so annoying that in all the 16 years, I think, or 14, 15 we've been there, I can't believe we're sitting far away on a Zoom call, but hey, good to be here. Happy birthday, Jasper. Happy birthday, Music Matters. It's amazing to be here. And of course, hello to all my friends. Hi, Taka. Hi, Dom. Hi, Lesley. So quickly, India, as you all know, is incredibly fierce, already emerging market. Everyone, there are literally all eyes on India and China for a big chunk of our business, especially music and digital. Tech to a big part. We've, the pandemic, I think, and I think everyone's going to talk about it and how it sort of affected, especially, Priya with live and all of that. But the truth of the matter is that the pandemic did some of us a favor. It's a horrible thing to say, but it's the truth. Some of us in the digital goods business, in the digital trading business, in the digital creative businesses, we saw a bit of a lull for a little bit. We saw everyone sort of feel the first brunt of the first wave and sort of sit back and say, hey, what's going on? In a couple of months, when people processed what was going on and figured out this whole work from home rubbish, I think, everyone started to go back to their sort of normal way of, or as close to new normal way of living. And obviously for us, specifically in the music tech, live management, those areas, we saw that minus live, literally everything sort of, came back with a bang. We had one great advantage. Universal, as you know, Jasper, we've discussed this enough. We're in the business of music the way any of the global majors are in music. We're in the singer-songwriter, artist-first music business, unlike India, which is primarily a film-driven music business. And Priya is nodding her head in a very wise and sagely manner because she knows. So what we saw the pandemic do is basically, because the movie theater stopped, literally for 2 years, Bollywood music stopped being produced because the films weren't being shot. And we had this incredible 18, 20-month window where we knew way back as the pandemic was setting in, like literally 2-3 weeks before, we all huddled and said, look, this is going to be a golden opportunity. We're never going to get in our lives again. And while all the rest of it's going to be horrible, this is one true opportunity to make music the way Universal makes music, or the way anyone makes music in the world, truly be heard and sampled in a population as diverse and as sort of spread out and laid out as us, right? So we really sort of fueled the engines. To your various questions, Jasper, we saw non-film music, as we broadly call it, which is a terrible name, by the way, but it is, sort of really get its groove. People started listening because suddenly the front tiles of every DSP were being replaced, and there wasn't the top 4 movies anymore, but there was the top 4 artists. And obviously the ones who did really well started being heard more. As a result of that, non-film music being consumed more. We suddenly saw hip-hop being this, I mean, we all knew hip-hop was coming because of this famous movie that was made and all of that. And we knew it was sort of chugging its way into mainstream the same way, it's happened in Europe and France and other places in the world. Suddenly, hip-hop suddenly took mainstream. The other thing that we saw in music was regional music. You have to understand, India is a place of 23 primary states. Every state has its own language, its own dialect, its own color, its own food, its own festival, its own god, and so on and so forth. We've got thousands of that. And suddenly we saw that regional music, especially from markets which weren't, Punjab, which is a very big part of our culture and, only second to Hindi, which is our main language. For the longest time, we've seen a lot of great Punjabi music do well, but we suddenly started seeing other regions sort of fire. We saw Haryanvi, Bhojpuri. Now these are, words that won't even make sense to you, but they're like tier 3 and tier 4 states with tier 3 languages. And suddenly we saw one song of that become so big that it sat on top of the YouTube's #1 worldwide chart for like 8 weeks. Suddenly, an unknown language that I can guarantee you 5 out of the 6 haven't heard before, this language called Haryanvi, comes from the north of the country, had this song that broke out that literally spent little under 2 months being the world's most watched video of all time. So strange things started happening, So regional music became popular, hip hop started coming out in a way that we hadn't seen before. Video, strangely, also, one would obviously expect because video is so important, and especially in India, how big video is. But not only the main guy of video, whose name we all know, who need not be named, but OTT. And I was just watching Netflix, your panel a second before. People like Netflix, Hotstar from Disney, Amazon Prime, the whole bunch of them. Suddenly there was a huge upsurge in just video consumption. Now, video consumption in India or audio consumption in India is very easily taken for free, because we've got ad-funded support. Everyone loves this, let's watch 3 ads in a movie and it's fine. We started seeing a marked move in the side of subscription. Suddenly, for the first time in video, especially, people started paying $199, $299, $399, as much as $699. And this in dollars, by the way, is $1, $2, $4, $6, $7, actually paying for video. So we saw that happen. Jasper, podcasts, voices now. So while people are paying for,
Devraj,
audio,
yeah. Dev, sorry, I'm sorry to be very, very rude to interrupt, but we're trying to get around the whole of Asia in 30 minutes, not the whole of India.
So I had 5 minutes, didn't I?
I can say that because he's a friend.
2 points. Last 2 points. Okay. Podcast, voice, very big, and live is going to come back in a way like you won't imagine. We're hearing the biggest superstars, the biggest acts, the biggest festivals, all of that are making a beeline for us, right? So all in all, I think from a report card way, Jasper and my fellow panelists, looking pretty good. It's a very interesting time to be in business in India.
Very good. Thank you so much, Devraj. India looking good. We're going to go slightly to the right and come to Southeast Asia now. The whole of Southeast Asia.
All right.
Sorry to throw that on you in 3 minutes.
Well, geographically, to be fair, it's smaller than India. So let me try to lump in Southeast Asia and give you a few key highlights from the region as a whole. I would say the most exciting trend right now is that artists want to release music independently. Independently from majors as we know, independently from local majors. And the good news is that a lot of the global distribution partners are now in Asia, in Southeast Asia, which means that artists now have more options available to them. At the same time, there are a lot of label services that are popping up to support this new independent music infrastructure, which is really great. PR and marketing companies that can benefit not just local artists, but regional artists and international artists who are trying to break into the market. On the digital front, I think everybody is familiar that Southeast Asia is not just very socially active, but also very socially influential. So the launch of Facebook music products and YouTube Shorts are very exciting for this region. I'd say, even though Southeast Asia is relatively more English-speaking, it's still a good idea to localize content where you can, be it through Vina House remixes, through Bahasa lyric videos, and we love to karaoke. We love to sing, so you'll see a lot of artists and fans popping on to local services like Kumu and Rezo and Jukes, or global services like TikTok and Reels and YouTube Shorts, doing duet content and sing-along content. And last but not least, rumor has it that we will be inviting international artists to tour Southeast Asia again, potentially next year. So markets like Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia might be open for business for touring next year.
Fantastic. Well, thank you.
What a great, short and sweet?
Great whistle-stop tour. Normally we talk some of the best food in the world as well, but let's keep on going. So we've gone right a little bit. We're going to go south to our friends in Australia. Dom Alessio from Sounds Australia. Dom, what's going on down south?
Hello, Jasper. Hello. Nice to see some friends on this call, and hello everybody in Singapore, coming to you from Sydney, Australia. As is customary here, we like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're on. So I'm on the traditional lands of the Gadigal and Wongal people of the Eora Nation, who have been the custodians of this land for 60,000 years. So I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. It's been a really challenging 18 months for Australian music. Despite the fact that Australia is the 9th largest recorded music market in the world, it really does hinge upon the live scene. And lockdowns and border closures have really wreaked havoc in Australia. To give you a picture, Australia is broken up into 8 different states and territories, and one of the many difficulties over the past 18 months is that each of the respective state and territories have had controls over their borders. So at very different times, certain states have been locked down or closed out other states if they've had COVID outbreaks. Because for most of the pandemic, Australia's actually been really lucky and hasn't had a lot of COVID. So the public's appetite, so to speak, for COVID cases was pretty low, which meant that lockdowns happened quite quickly and quite often, and border closures would happen quite often, which just meant it became really impossible for Australian artists to tour at all around the country in the last 18 months. Plus, at the start of the pandemic in March 2020, the federal government closed the international border, which meant that any Australian citizens or permanent residents needed a travel exemption to leave the country. So for us at Sounds Australia, who work on exporting Australian music, that meant that was incredibly difficult. Even though Australian music has seen some success over the past 18 months, Tones and I with Dance Monkey, The Kid Laroi with his song Stay with Justin Bieber, Masked Wolf with Astronaut in the Ocean, has shown that there is still a really large appetite internationally for Australian music. So you have a lot of artists who are they're ready to get out there, ready to reconnect with the rest of the world. I think it might be some time before a lot of Australian artists get out and tour again like they did pre-pandemic. Already, some of the larger artists are starting to tour the US and the UK and Europe, which is really great to see. I think now that the vaccine has rolled out really well in Australia and things are starting to open up again, Australian artists will probably prioritise touring domestically for 6 to 12 months to build up the coffers again, earn that revenue to reinvest into their export careers. Exciting 12 months ahead now that there is light at the end of this tunnel and that things are reopening and we're getting back to shows again.
Fantastic. Also, hopefully we'll see lots more Australian artists back at Music Matters next year. Perfect timing, it sounds. Okay, thank you, Dom. We're going to head from due south. We're going to head due north. We're going to go to China. Lesley, where are you right now in China? And tell us a little bit what's going on in the market.
Hi, everyone. This is Lesley from the Creative China Initiative. I'm based in Shenzhen, south of China. And I'm glad to share with you what's happening in China. Well, in terms of the digital music, the positive signal is that the pay-in ratio is raising for both key players in the market. Tencent Music, 11% and the NetEase music is about 15%. It implies that the value of music is gradually realized by listeners, but there are still big gap comparing with Spotify, which is 45%. And there are also challenges from other forms of entertainment, such as long-form audio and short-form videos, as the monthly active user of Tencent Music has declined in the last 5 quarters year over year. As the antitrust regulation was implemented over the last few months, Tencent Music had to give up its exclusive music licensing rights, and NetEase Music managed to sign deals with many rights holders, and the company will be listed on Hong Kong Exchange at the beginning of next month. It is expected that more players will enter the digital market in China, so the platforms will have to differentiate their services and build a viable business model to cover the royalty and other costs to make profit. As far as the live music concerned, many Chinese bands are touring across the country, and over 300 outdoor festivals has been held so far this year in China. But the lineup are basically local musicians due to international travel restriction, and there are also many festivals were cancelled or postponed due to local pandemic control policy. So it's still quite risky to organize events, lacking of insurance scheme. Regarding music genre, Guofeng or Chinese style music is quite popular in recent years. It combines popular music with traditional Chinese culture elements to reflect kind of the national culture identity.
That's fantastic. So Lesley, thank you so much. 1.4 billion people in less than 5 minutes. Pretty impressive, I have to say. Right, we're going to come back live on stage here. So we've gone across, down, up. Now we're going to go right again to Korea. Obviously, the world is talking about K-pop outside of Korea. What's going on in Korea?
Well, the thing with the Korean music market is that for 2020, according to numbers from the IFPI, Korea was not just a bit of an anomaly or an outlier. Korea just didn't have an above average year. It had an outstanding year. In terms of not just digital, but more importantly, physical combined, the recorded music market in Korea actually had a whopping 44.8% year-on-year growth, which is 6 times more than the global average. And although digital experienced healthy growth at around, actually it wasn't even around precisely at 20.4%, it was physical music. It was CDs that largely drove the growth of the Korean music market. Year-on-year growth, while the entire world saw the shrinking of the physical and CD market, Korea experienced an 85.9% year-on-year growth in terms of physical music. And as a result of the outstanding year that the Korean recorded music industry had, it not only secured its place as the number 6 recorded music market in the world, in fact, it generated more revenues than all of the entire Latin America region, China, as well as 2 times bigger than Canada, 2 times bigger than Scandinavia, 4 times more than Southeast Asia, and nearly 5 times bigger than the Indian music market. And what's interesting now is Koreans now actually buy more CDs than Americans. Korea has actually now emerged as the 2nd largest CD market in the world. And what was interesting in the digital space is, although everyone talks about the predominance and really more importantly, the dominance of local DSPs, it was actually international DSPs who made some noise and made some waves in Korea. Spotify finally launched in Korea to much fanfare. But one of the quiet untold stories, and I wish Ruben was here to tell us, but YouTube Music has quickly surged to become a top 3 local DSP in Korea. And it's exciting to see the, the growth and the development of local DSPs, but more importantly, the presence, the impact, and the influence that international DSPs are now starting to find in the Korean music market. When it comes to live, that's an interesting question because although many bands, actually I should say almost all the bands couldn't tour worldwide, Korea somehow was able to find an amazing lemonade cocktail out of a situation that basically threw everybody else lemons. And what I mean by that is live streaming. Korea has, some of the best and biggest live streaming tech solutions that really was able to be put to the test vis-a-vis through bands like BTS. BTS, although they couldn't go on a world tour, they were doing arena world tour numbers. What would take them 2 months in attendance, they could do in 2 days online through streaming. Their last concert they did early in the summer actually pulled in 1.33 million paid viewers. And another thing that we're excited to hear about is now that we're starting to see COVID finally ebbing and flowing and fading, the announcement and the groundbreaking of new huge live venues that are starting to be constructed in Korea. Recently, CJ and A&G announced CJ Live City, which will be a new K-pop arena of 60,000 capacity. But what's really interesting is I think it will be probably the first arena where it's both physical and virtual. And so for fans of K-pop, you can either be there, and more importantly, be there vis-a-vis online. In terms of genres, although we talk about K-pop boy bands, girl bands, idol music, winning awards and hitting the top of the charts, ironically enough, in Korea, we're actually starting to see sort of a blast from the past, a bit of a retro trend. And what I mean by that is, whether it's audition shows to charts, we're seeing traditional Korean music, genres like trot, which is basically like Korean country music, to bands like Inalchi, which just won last year the Korean Music Awards for Artist of the Year. Yes, they did win, and what we're starting to see is another dance troupe called the Anonymous Dance Company that many of you might have seen on the Coldplay Higher Power music videos. Higher Power. But basically what we're starting to see is traditional Korean music being modernized, being tweaked, and being remixed, remastered in new and fresh ways, so that younger audiences are finding these throwback songs that have been modernized, starting to get traction not only on the charts, but more importantly worldwide. In terms of growing pains, as Korea has become, and more importantly K-pop has become more global, there's definitely more of an open discussion and maybe even debate about is selling out part of selling more? And there's a debate between, is this cultural appreciation versus cultural appropriation, and how Korean artists and Korean music companies wrestle with being on the global stage. This is the debate that we see with fans. We see some old school, old-time Korean music fans getting a little bit uncomfortable now that K-pop has really become pop music globally. And I think last but not least, in terms of exciting developments we're starting to see, is we're not only starting to see the export of Korean music artists, obviously, but we're now starting to see the export of Korean music formats, Korean music formulas, in the sense that The Masked Singer is an audition show that came from Korea, is now one of the top non-scripted music shows around the world. And in terms of formulas, in 2022, we're going to start seeing major Korean music companies working closely with major US labels to discover and develop new bands, new boy bands, new girl bands in a K-pop system, K-pop style, K-pop formula. And, and we have to, end things off with, BTS. Their parent company, HYBE, has made some major moves the past few months, whether it's the merger and acquisition of Ithaca Holdings, the home to Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, and J Balvin, or the slew of joint ventures that they've announced with Universal Music, everything from their live streaming solutions to their projects on looking for the next big thing, the next BTS, or the next Blackpink coming out of not just Korea, but from the US and worldwide. And with that, I'm going to mic drop to you, Jasper.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Korea's coming for you. And we're going to go as far east as we can before we hit Hawaii. And if my geography's off, it's been a while since I was at school. Taka, what's going on in Japan?
Thank you, Jasper. Hi, everyone. I'm Takayuki Suzuki, running a company called ParadeALL, based in Tokyo, Japan. So let me start with explain about Japanese market from live. The focus of live music market this year is US dollar 10 billion in 2021, which is still 58% of the 2019. The market would take a few more years to be back to normal. Good news is this month, restriction of live event is to 100% capacity up to 20K with vaccinated certification or COVID test, and without cheering. There will be many big venue, which is very exciting for live entertainment industry. When it comes to the digital, we see streaming growth in the market here in Japan as well. Growth of streaming is 28% year on year, and 66% increase than same period of 2019. Currently, total digital is 60% of Japanese music market first half. Major streaming services are Apple Music, Lime Music, Amazon Music, and Spotify. When it comes to genre, the breaking artists this year come from TikTok and YouTube, and many of them are Gen Z artists. For example, Ado, who is from Universal Music Japan, is a typical Gen Z artist whose face is behind the anime character. She has over 800 million streams. Artists who has this kind of style behind the anime character, not to disclose their faces, are really popular. And they collaborate many digital native music producers through communication via YouTube and Twitter. Musical style is based on the electronic music with the J-pop melody and some heavy metal aggression. For main challenges for our market is growth of streaming rate is a bit slowing than pre-COVID. I believe it is necessary to engage more 40, 50s people who has a big chunk of our population pyramid. And pricing gap between high value CD and the monthly subscription fee is also the big. The many of the market has really same level of the price points of the one CD and the monthly subscription fee, but Japanese high value CD is 2.5 times expensive than the monthly subscription fee. And for general industry, still our value chain could be more digitalized. Especially, we should leverage more data, and it would be the key to explore also the Japanese streaming market and global market as well. That's it.
Fantastic. So we've just done 2/3 of the world's population in 27 minutes. That's not bad going. So we have 3 minutes and 6 of you to go. So that's 30 seconds each. I'm going to ask you, you have 3 words to describe what is the most exciting thing in your country right now. We're going to go through the same order again. Devraj, have you ever done anything in 3 words? What's the most exciting thing going on in India right now?
Non-film music, video, and I think everything to do with voice and the future live that's yet to come. So that's 3.5 words, sorry.
That's very good, very good. Priya?
Music crossing borders.
Very good, very good. Where do we go next? We're going south, Dom?
Ooh, back to live.
Back to live, very good. We're going to come back up to Lesley. You're on mute is 3 words as well.
Collaboration, conversation, and learning.
Collaboration, translation, and learning. Very good. Bernie?
Fan-powered platforms. We're starting to see not just Korean music companies, but their close relationship with tech companies exporting not just the music, but now the technology.
Okay, thank you, Bernie. And finally, the word for Japan.
A music NFT similar to CD.
Music NFT and what, sorry?
Music NFT is similar to high value CD.
Oh, music NFTs. Okay, cool. So that's it. 2/3 of the world's population. Thank you so much to Devraj, to Dom, to Lesley, to Taka, to Bernie, and to Priya. We are going to break for lunch. We're running late, which is not the first time I've said that. 16 years running. Running a little bit late. So if we can be back here for 2:20, we've got the Live Matters session, and we also have the Academy kicking off, and we have the Singapore showcase, some great artists on stage talking, not performing. But thank you again to the panel, and thank you again for hanging out with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice one, Jasper. See you guys.
Thank you, Jasper.